Good afternoon. Welcome to iPulse Live. Today is January 30th. I'm Delaney Smith.
And I'm Davendra Belbis. Weather tops our news today. Near record or record-breaking cold will grip Florida this weekend. Our weather reporter Noah Barclay is joining us with the latest. Thank you so much, Noah, for joining us.
Of course, yeah, it's quite the week we have this week. If you get in the middle of the Florida near Orlando and DeLand, 20 degrees, or all the way down, sometimes even down to 18, so some pretty unbelievable stuff. And if you go over to Tampa on the other side, you even have a 20% chance of snow, which is about a 20% chance more than you probably ever expect for any snow down here. So lots of interesting stuff going on, lots of dangerous conditions as well. So if it does snow, definitely be careful. Before the coldest weather rolls, Swanson Gibson found some people still trying to get a mix of sun, sand, and surf.
Winter weather. What winter weather? Said two Boca Raton beachgoers.
I just felt like it was a perfect day. Despite the cold weather, it's not that bad.
Surf's up. The temperature's going down. It didn't stop hardy beachgoers this day.
I'm actually really surprised because it's not that warm for down here. I love Florida weather, even the summer, and everybody else hates it, but I love it, and I think this winter was a little cold.
The big South Florida chill may be unusual, but it sure beats the deep freeze up north.
I love the weather. It's been really good. A lot of places around the country are freezing, but it's been nice to just go to the beach and relax and get some tan.
In the end, weather's about latitudes and attitudes. It all depends on where you come from.
I'm not originally from Florida, so this to me is a perfect beach day. I love how it's windy and chilly, and it's still, the sun's out. I'm fine with this. This could be everyday weather for me.
But the coldest weather is yet to come, driving out all but the toughest snowbirds indoors. Reporting for iPulse News, I'm Swanson Gibson Jr.
Noah will be back shortly with his full weather forecast.
One big worry this weekend is for the homeless and others in need of shelter in the unusual cold that will grip South Florida. We will keep a watch on that story.
We turn now to the nation's 250th birthday this year. It is a time for both pride and examination, a look at where we have been and where we may be going.
Patriotism and political divisions compete for our attention. We begin with a look at history unfolding in the art on display at Lynn University. Lilian Carreón takes us there.
So this is the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, which means the 250th anniversary of the birth of this republic. So we wanted to celebrate it in this multimedia way, through art, through online, through exhibits. And what a beautiful way. You walk into the library and this is what greets you: union, disunion, and rights. Mr. Silver, who donated these magnificent paintings, he commissioned with famous military artists each one of these paintings, so they're one of a kind.
We love it, so let's go check them out.
Absolutely.
Let's go see them.
Good, let's go.
Okay, so we have the farewell here. What is it about?
Okay, one of my favorites is George Washington. Of course, George Washington would become the father of this country. After all those years of public duty, he is called on yet again. He's elected president. But as he says, he has one more duty, not public, private duty: visit his mom. So he was a good son. His mother, Mary, was very ill. So when he meets with her, just days before setting off for his trip, they both know it will be the last time they ever see one another. She dies that August, just less than 4 months later. But the exciting thing is she lived long enough to see her son elected president of the United States. So one can only imagine that emotional moment of a son's last visit with his mother. This painting that we're looking in on is arguably the most important, perhaps, moment in American history. What happened was there had been a debate during the Continental Congress from 1774 to 1776. Should we seek independence from Britain, from the king, or reconciliation? And this is them presenting it to the Continental Congress, and on the 4th of July, they voted yes. So that's why we celebrate Independence Day. And here we are peeking in through the window.
Through the window, yeah. We're looking through another window, but this is a different time, right? This is another moment.
Yes. Another important moment, so we'll have to be quiet peeking in the window. This is the most important moment of the Civil War.
Okay.
This is the surrender. So it was a cordial surrender and a very polite, magnanimous surrender to an awful, awful and bloody war.
Was it a handshake? Would
Yeah,
you say what ended everything?
They shook hands, they looked each other in the eye, and then they had their aides sign the documents. So we have a civil war, and one of the big goals in a civil war is to capture the other side's capital. So for years, both sides tried to capture one another's capital because it wasn't just the political capital, it was command, control, communications. A couple of brave Union engineers decide they're going to build, even though there's Confederate sharpshooters, you can see them firing all across. This man dies. 5 men stayed and tried to build this bridge. When they get almost halfway across, there's too much gunfire. Of this, in real life, of the 5, 2 die, 3 live. The commanding officer did live, but they were not able to build the initial pontoon across. Eventually, the battle for Fredericksburg was brutal and bloody. 12,500 Union casualties. So this is Stonewall here. It's Thomas Jackson, considered one of the greatest military strategists America has ever produced. He's riding back into camp, and the Confederate sentry sees a guy on a horse, thinks it's a Union soldier, and shoots him through his arm. He has to have his arm amputated. He lives through that and lingers on for a few more days, but he's so weak, he gets pneumonia and dies. And the death of Stonewall Jackson really disadvantaged the Confederacy, thank goodness. And I think this painting really captures that sad night for the Confederacy when he was shot by mistake by his own man. So this is Abraham Lincoln, the president, parading the army. This was very common. They would often parade the army, and sometimes 100,000 soldiers would come out and parade. This is an aspect of the war that people don't really talk about, doesn't make textbooks, doesn't make movies, but it was an integral part of building patriotism and support for the war, and Lincoln loved it. So I'm so glad that Mr. Silver had an artist depict this.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
For this,
my
for
pleasure.
your time,
Okay.
and for sharing history,
Sure.
which is a treasure, and more like generations like us to get to watch it every day here at the school.
We turn now to the deadly confrontation between ICE agents and an American citizen on a Minneapolis street. Nearly a week after Alex Pretti's shooting death, President Donald Trump and his border czar are signaling that they want to return a focus to targeted arrest of criminals and other national security threats in the U.S. illegally. Meanwhile, Florida lawmakers weigh in on the aftermath. Gui De Domenico reports.
A deadly confrontation on an American street between ICE agents and an American citizen protesting their actions.
I thought it was horrific.
And Florida lawmakers nearly a week later, like Americans everywhere, weighing in on what happened and what's next.
An abuse by federal authorities. And it's something we should all be pushing back.
Alex Pretti is the latest casualty in President Trump's deportation crackdown, his death sparking nationwide protests. Lois Frankel is a Palm Beach County Democratic congresswoman.
It seems like they have a policy, other than to allow thugs to be militarized and harass people and kill people. I think ICE is an abomination. That whole process has to be reformed.
I also reached out to local Republican Congressman Brian Mast's district and Washington offices. So far, no response. One Republican Miami State Senator, Ileana Garcia, had this to say to the New York Times. It's gone too far. What happened Saturday was abhorrent. This coming from a longtime ally of President Trump, who founded the group Latinas for Trump. The federal government has now replaced Greg Bovino as the public face of ICE operations in Minnesota. Border Czar Tom Homan is now in charge.
I don't want to see anybody die. And despite what people think of Tom Homan, I say a prayer every night that everybody goes home safe.
Homan is leading efforts, including a possible downsizing of the ICE presence in Minnesota.
Silence means often acceptance, and it can be deadly. So the fact of the matter is, we will be less safe if people don't use their voices in a peaceful way to send a message to our government.
A message amid the ever-growing debate about use of force by immigration agents on American streets. Gui De Domenico reporting for iPulse News.
I'm Enzo Baboni. We had the chance to talk to local immigration attorney Richard Huber. He offered his perspective on the intensifying deportation debate.
We have an election year going on, and every one of these incidents that is stoking more of the flame to more gas onto this fire in Minnesota is leading to what I think is going to potentially happen during the election, which is there's going to be a backlash. I think the more that these incidents take place, I think the voting public is going to say we're going a bit too far with this. They are okay with going after the worst of the worst, the criminals, those with the final order deportation. But when it comes to this interaction on the streets, when it comes to grabbing and detaining people that don't have any real criminal record, there are millions of people like that. It's impossible logistically and in terms of resources to probably go and get 20 million people, if that's the number. I mean, we don't really know what the number is, but it's probably at least 20 million. How would we ever be able to do that? It's impossible logistically and with the resources that we have. So what's the right balance and what's the right case-by-case review so that if you're grabbing someone that's kind of on the edge, on the margins of, what you want to see as far as the priority or the worst of the worst, you got to focus the resources on where it most matters, on where it's the most important to have someone detained and ultimately removed from the country. And yes, that should be the criminals and that should be the people with the final order that have already, gone through all the process and a judge has ordered their removal. There's got to be some meaning and some impact to that.
We will continue to seek perspectives on this developing story. I'm Enzo Baboni, reporting for iPulse.
Journalist Don Lemon is vowing to fight charges he faces following his arrest after a protest that disrupted a Minneapolis church service.
Lemon was arrested by federal agents in Los Angeles, where he had been covering the Grammy Awards. It's not clear what charges are being filed. Lemon, a former CNN anchor, said he had no ties to the protesters who went into the church on January 18th. Lemon said he was there as a journalist, recording their actions. His lawyer says Lemon's work is protected by the First Amendment.
The outcry after Minneapolis threatens to cause a partial federal government shutdown this weekend. A bipartisan spending deal is on the table, but the search for votes to pass it goes on. Mitchell Bernstein explains the debate.
Democrats in Congress are taking a bold stand on federal immigration enforcement. They're withholding votes for a broader government spending package if DHS funding isn't stripped from it. This comes after the killing of ICU nurse Alex Pretti in Minnesota by federal officers over the weekend.
We are going to stand up for the American citizens who are being mistreated and killed. They want to shut this government down because they refuse to rein in their lawless, militarized Department of Homeland Security. That's their choice.
Minority Leader Chuck Schumer laid out his party's list of demands Wednesday. Proposed reforms include an end to roving patrols, tightening parameters around warrants, enforcing a code of conduct comparable to force policies for state and local law enforcement, requiring ICE agents to remove their masks and wear body cameras.
But in the wake of ICE's abuses and the administration's recklessness, the Senate must not pass the DHS budget as currently written.
The White House does not support separating DHS funding, but is optimistic there will be an agreement.
Hopefully we won't have a shutdown. We're working on that right now. I think we're getting close. The Democrats, I don't believe, want to see it either. So we'll work in a very bipartisan way. I believe not to have a shutdown. We don't want a shutdown.
On Capitol Hill, lawmakers warn of political interference.
I think the administration is willing to sit down with them and have a discussion, perhaps a negotiation about how do we move forward. But the one thing I do know, and that is that a government shutdown is not in anybody's interest.
For iPulse News, I'm Mitchell Bernstein.
Please join me later for an iPulse Extra. I sit down with Dr. Robert Watson for an in-depth exploration of America's 250th anniversary and the crossroads many historians say we are facing.
I've always been proud to be an American. I will say right now, I'm not. I'm frustrated that we've gotten so knee-jerk, so petty, so divided, And look, we've criticized our allies around the world. You can't go it alone. The Declaration of Independence, I've always taught it as a declaration of interdependence. We need one another.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Noah Barclay. I hope you're doing well. We do have some really crazy weather going on, especially with the ones with the jet stream coming down. It's actually forcing an Arctic blast to come down to Florida. And of course, as we get closer to the equator, it does start to naturally warm up a little bit. So it's not the sub-zero temperatures that you're seeing up here, but it's not warm either. It is very cold. So you do have to be very careful, especially with rain that we're going to have on Saturday. It could potentially freeze, maybe not around here, but it could freeze as you get farther north up into Florida, where it is reaching even below 20 degrees. We are under a freeze warning right here, so we do have a lot of cold weather coming in. You'll see that in the 7-day and a little later, but it is going to be a very, very cold week, especially at nighttime. So that's something you definitely have to keep an eye out for. As you'll see on the next image, we do have some spotty showers around right now. It is going to be an on and off day. We do have some over Boca Raton, but it's going to be, like I said, on and off, very scattered. So it's not projected to necessarily be a rainy day, but it is going to rain on and off. Not much. You might get some, maybe 1 or 2 spurts of rain, maybe on and off, but we'll have to see as the day goes on. But definitely bring an umbrella with you because it is going to come at random. It's not necessarily something that could be put into like an hourly forecast or anything like that. So you do have to keep your umbrella on you. So you do have to be prepared for about a 5-minute rain shower every once in a while, going up until about 8 o'clock tonight, and then it should start to clear up. As you'll see on the next image, on Saturday, we do have a pretty big storm, and there is a potential, a 20% chance, I should say, of snow right over here in Tampa. Now, it's not showing on the GFS model here because if it's below 20% chance, it's not going to show it, but you should keep an eye out for it if you live on that side of Florida. And it is going to be dangerous if there is snow, even a little bit, because the roads over there and everything, the infrastructure, is not necessarily built for it. And even if it does snow, it is going to be very, very little. But it's not selling many tires are there or used to, so please be careful driving if you're on that side of Florida. But again, Saturday, a lot of rain over here. It is going to be a very wet day. As you'll see on the 7-day forecast, on the next image, I would like to emphasize that I put the low temperatures right here on the top, and the high temperatures on the day are actually down here on the bottom because I wanted to emphasize all the cold weather that we are going to be getting. Tomorrow and Saturday, we have the 41-degree low, so it's going to be very cold, but the issue is once again, this Sunday, it's going to be 1 degree above freezing. So it is going to be very cold. The roads are going to be slick because it rained on Saturday, so please keep an eye out for that when you're leaving for your morning commute on Monday if it's still there and it's still a little dangerous. As we go throughout the week, we do project it to be very sunny. It is going to be a nice week, but as we get into Thursday, you should watch for a little bit of wind. It is going to pick up a little bit due to a disturbance that's going to be up in the northeast. They're actually going to get another snowstorm, so be careful if you live up there, but it is going to affect a little bit of the atmosphere down here. Stay safe, everyone. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Delaney Smith, and I'm here with an in-depth iPulse Extra interview with Lynn University's Distinguished Professor of American History, Dr. Robert Watson. Robert, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, and this is not a very distinguished attire for the day. Apologies, I rode my bicycle in today, and I'm going to play basketball, so this is my basketball bicycling outfit. But thank you.
This year marks the 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. What were our founding fathers trying to achieve? And looking at America today, are we living up to those ideals?
Yes and no. So we need to remember that the founding of America and the Declaration was a paradigm shift in history. That is, it changed everything. Every government in history was a dictatorship, a monarchy, and all of a sudden they're proposing that we have government of, by, and for the people. We have term limits. We have people that vote. So we take it for granted today, but it marked a fundamental shift in governance. So the challenge was enormous. We didn't always live up to things because think about it. In 1776, we're writing the Declaration of Independence. Several people that signed it were slave owners. They allow slavery to exist. So the Declaration, the big challenge was it was more of an aspirational goal, that one day maybe we will achieve equality, maybe one day we will give the world a new form of governance. And it's been an unfinished symphony. It's an American experiment, an adventure. It's still ongoing. And we take 2 steps forward, but take 2 steps backward. There were some exciting advents. We had 8 immigrants sign the Declaration, so we were already pushing for inclusivity and living up to some of it. Yet again, like I said, the man that wrote it, Jefferson, was a slave owner. Today, it's a mixed bag. We seem to have, I don't know that since the Civil War we've had a period where essential rights, the rule of law, and constitutionalism have been under such a grave threat. So what a time for us to talk about this.
You bring up slavery, and we're known as the land of the free. Where does slavery come into play when we examine the past 250 years? It's got to be a part of the narrative. It's an inescapable part of American history. Individuals were enslaved for centuries. The capital city was built largely by enslaved labor, and the White House, the Capitol, and the actual whole city were designed by immigrants. Yet today, there's this political sense of trying to erase that, sweep it under the rug. Our governor's been saying that. The president's been saying that. One of our 2 political parties have been saying that. It's got to be a part of the narrative. You can't escape history. You've got to meet it head on and learn the lesson so it doesn't happen again. On another level, it's just flat out inaccurate. On another level, it's disrespectful to those who were enslaved or who suffered. So it's got to be a part of the narrative. It's who we are. And that's how you get better, by moving forward to understand the mistakes that we've made in the past. What would you say is the greatest threat to American democracy right now?
I've always felt that the greatest threat is that Americans are not engaged and educated. The average American, I don't think, could find France on a map. The average American couldn't tell you, who some of the founding fathers were. I think the average American has never read the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution. So we tend to often be geographically illiterate, historically illiterate, and a viable or robust democracy cannot function if people don't know their history and don't know what their role is as citizens. Ergo, we oftentimes vote for people who I don't think have read the Declaration or Constitution either. So it's an educated, engaged, informed electorate. And that's been an elusive challenge for 200 and some years.
What would you say to critics who argue that your approach is from a liberal point of view?
History is neither liberal nor conservative. History is factual. The problem is you have a lot of politicians, including the U.S.'s 250 celebration this year, the Semi-Quincentennial Commission. They're reimagining American history. It's politicians who are doing it. If you need heart surgery, don't get me. I don't know anything about it. If you need dental work, don't ask me. I don't know bicuspids from molars. But if you want history, ask an historian. If you want your car fixed, don't get a plumber. If you want your electrician work, don't get a carpenter, So history is neither liberal nor conservative. And if we go back and we start inserting ideology and political viewpoints, we're muddying the waters of history and facts. I always say that he who controls the present controls the past by rewriting it. History needs to be written with neutrality, objectivity, and facts.
We talked about these threats that we're facing right now. Can you speak on the enduring successes of this republic that so many thought would fail from its start?
No question. So the most existential threat, obviously, was the Civil War, and we almost lost the Union. Yet we held it. We held it. And if you look at great upheavals, turbulent elections, the 2000 election for president, the 2016 election for president, were what we call electoral college misfires. The person that had the least amount of votes won the electoral college. The person that got the most votes lost. Yet the tanks didn't roll out on the streets. I was not happy about the way the elections were conducted in that, but I recognized the next president as the legitimate president of the United States. So we've had this love of the rule of law that has triumphed over everything. The civil rights movement required blood, and it took far too long to happen, but it happened. Women's rights. It took 50 years after black men got the right to vote with the 15th Amendment in 1870 for women to get the right to vote with the 19th Amendment in 1920. 50 years. But you know what? It happened. So there are as many remarkable successes and examples of resilience as there are shortcomings and and troublesome events in our history.
What are the responsibilities of young voters who have that power in shaping the next chapter of American democracy?
It's your country. You're the next generation of influence, the next generation of journalists and editors and senators and judges and teachers and professors and industrialists. So you have skin in the game. So young people need to do that. It's too easy to throw up one's hands and say the previous generation was sexist or homophobic or made this mistake or that mistake. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that, you can't overcome it.
We talked about the threats, we've talked about the success. Would you say you're proud to be an American?
I have always been proud to be an American my whole life because this country produced Abraham Lincoln. It produced Harry Truman. After World War II, we were broke. We had lost a lot of young men. Americans were afraid. Every village, every town had been touched. But you know what we did? We rebuilt the world. The Marshall Plan. We did that. Americans have won a disproportionate number of Nobel Prizes and Pulitzer Prizes and great discoveries. So I've always been proud to be an American. I will say right now, I'm not. I'm frustrated that we've gotten so knee-jerk, so petty, so divided. And look, we've criticized our allies around the world. You can't go it alone. The Declaration of Independence, I've always taught it as a declaration of interdependence. We need one another. No one's an island. No one can go it alone. We're throwing off decades-old alliances and treaties and agreements. We're not cooperating with international arms trafficking. We're not cooperating on international efforts to control terrorism. We've withdrawn from UNESCO. That's the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. They protect Machu Picchu and Easter Island and the Great Barrier Reef. We're cutting aid to the poor. We're cutting health care. These are not partisan political questions. It's neither Democrat nor Republican. These are values questions. And as a nation, this is where we are. So I'm not proud of that now. Have I given up? No. Have I moved? No. I'm going to fight to remind people of the great values that made this nation what it is. And we've always, whether it was the Civil War to get rid of slavery, we corrected the great wrongs. So I'm trying, and I'm hopeful in my own little way, in my own little world. But yeah, I would say for the first time in my life, and I'll be 64 soon, so I've lived a long time, I'm not proud of where we are. But I'm fighting to try to get us to where we need to be.
Now in sports, the first pitch is finally here. Our Lynn baseball team has been hard at work this fall. I checked in with them at practice before the start of their season this weekend. A final practice ahead of opening weekend here in beautiful Boca Raton. This marks the start of what our Lynn baseball team hopes will be a championship season.
Our goal at the beginning of the year is to, play for a conference championship and go to a postseason and go as far in the postseason and obviously hopefully play for a national championship. And
the Knights will start the season with a 4-game slate at home. Ryan DiMaggio, a senior pitcher for the Knights, says their success last season and making it to the NCAA regional tournament only leaves them with room to grow.
I think that's the new standard. We hadn't done that in 10 years. We went back last year. I think now moving forward, that's the goal every year. So we're hoping to do that again, get back there, and hopefully go farther this year.
Coach Rudy Garvelosa expects DiMaggio, alongside other returners, to make a big impact this season.
We have quite a few returners that really are seasoned from 1 or 2 years of being in the program, and we're counting on them to really do a good job. And actually our starter tomorrow, Ryan DiMaggio, was named a preseason All-American. And we've got Amaris Harrison, an all-conference player, and Ivan Herrera, our catcher from last year, are some big guys that bring experience and understanding of what it takes.
In one of the toughest conferences in Division II baseball, the Knights look forward to some tough matchups ahead.
Tampa's obviously the big one that we look forward to every year. We start with them in conference play.
A mix of veterans and new players ready to go.
I'd say the team chemistry is probably the best it's ever been. The group of guys here we have is great. Everyone gets along. Everyone hangs out outside of baseball. I think it's probably one of the, if not the best group of guys from a chemistry standpoint that I've ever been around.
The Knights are ready to see just how far that chemistry and talent can take them this season. I'm Davin Geralbis, iPulse News.
Wake, walk, and word. That's not just an alliteration. This fitness group lives by these words. Reporter Allison Wallace tells their story.
Who knew Pilates and praise can go hand in hand? Located in Boca, Tampa, Miami, and Boston, they are called Wake, Walk, and Word, and they are bringing faith and fitness together in a powerful way. In Boca Raton, this group meets weekly for outdoor walks and group Bible studies. They also host praise and Pilates events in Boca Raton where participants complete a Pilates workout while also praising the Lord.
Amen. Where faith meets friendship. So we're supposed to be a space where if you're curious about God, you can come. It's very non-intimidating, a very safe space, but then also to find community with Christian girls as well. Woo! Oh my God, so crazy. I lead this group, but really I need this group. This group has created community for me where I can learn more about God and just grow in my faith, but then also just all these girls have been, I get these messages about how this has helped grow their faith, or I just moved here, I've never had any friends like this is crazy. So there's been some amazing, really cool stories with this group, and I'm just so thankful for it.
Give ourselves a nice hug here. Good.
I've always had a love for fitness and Pilates specifically, and on the other end there's the love for God and preaching the gospel and all of that, and I felt like what better way than to bring the two together, so to find movement that's backed by worship, that's backed by faith, and just bringing like-minded girls together in a space where we can move our bodies and just feel good about ourselves and the God we praise.
Wake, Walk, and Word is a special group showing it is possible to strengthen your body and your relationship with God at the same time. If you want to get involved, follow their Instagram at Wake, Walk, Word. I'm Allison Wallace reporting for iPulse Live.
Struts, posing, and attitude. This week, the Lynn Fashion Retail Association hosted Model Boot Camp. Marissa Mundo and Peter Van Buren helped students who wanted to audition for the Lynn Fashion Showcase today. Lisette Guillen brings you the story.
This is Boot Camp. It's a small group, but a dedicated one. These students want to model in the fashion show and are given tips on how to twist, turn, and walk, even if they haven't had experience, like Christina Moore.
For someone who doesn't know anything about fashion, learning something new is always great.
Is there anything like you struggled with that now you feel you improved on?
My speed on walking, I'm really slow. From what we just saw.
Don't mistake Peter Van Buren's smile. Deep down, he is a drill sergeant.
If you walk out onto that runway and you're not confident, you don't feel good, you don't think you look good, it'll shut.
Practice makes perfect.
Kind of the tips that we were giving were fixing like their pacing, how they were walking, whether we were swinging our arms too much, or face, because face is very important when it comes to modeling.
Audrey Johns is no stranger to modeling. She was in the fashion show last year and has big plans.
I do hope to be a model in the fashion show again this year. I think it'll be really fun.
I couldn't resist the temptation to live out a dream with the help of Marissa Mundo, the fashion show intern.
Okay, so I'm gonna try it right now.
Good. Leg out, pose. You're gonna put your leg to the front now. Pose, and you wanna look straight at the audience. And then you'll turn around and walk back. Keep your shoulders back. Turn around, and then you wait. Video's done. And that's an audition.
Cool.
This boot camp is all in preparation for the Lynn Fashion Showcase, and soon some of these models may be chosen to walk the runway. Lisette Guillen reporting for iPulse News.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Couch Potatoes. My name's Guilherme.
And my name is Lisette.
And today we're going to talk about Hamnet. So, Hamnet tells the fictional story of the experience that might have led Shakespeare to actually write the play Hamlet. And it talks about his home life, his relationship with his family, his wife. So, Lisette, what do we think?
I think, number one, this is one of the saddest movies I've ever watched in the theaters. You see this relationship with Shakespeare and his wife, Agnes, and as well as, their children. You see Hamnet, who looks up to his father and kind of wants to be the leader of the family whenever Shakespeare is gone, protecting his mother, protecting his siblings. And I know a lot of people say, like, oh, Shakespeare, like, I don't understand anything. Oh, that he's, like, so old or whatever. Yes, but he's also not. And that's the beauty of this is Shakespeare has so many universal elements. Losing a loved one, in this case it's Hamnet, losing a child and connecting the heart with the brain. You know what I mean? And I think that's what really makes this movie.
Yeah, no, I think you put it beautifully. I think for me, this movie, despite being fictional, it encompasses Shakespeare really well, his words really well. There's a particular verse in Hamlet that I really like, which is when he says that death is a consummation. And I think this movie is definitely about that. It's about understanding that death is the completion of life and maybe the perfection of it a bit, because this movie is also about, what you're going to leave once you're dead and what you're going to do up to that point. Mm-hmm. And this movie, just one last note, it can't exist without the two main actors. Yeah. I mean, it's Jessie Buckley just gets this unfathomable pain of losing a child, and it's one of the strongest things I've ever seen. I get shivers right now.
Yeah, so we encourage you to go watch it. I don't know if you picked up on it, but when we were in the theaters, it wasn't a lot of people, but there was just this moment where everyone was crying, including us, and it was just like all you could hear was everyone in unison going.
Yeah, it's the magic. It's Shakespeare. Yeah.
And until next time, bye.
So what else is likely on Oscars' radar? We are checking it out with Mitchell Bernstein and Adam Hakimi.
Let's start off first with the Best Picture category, where it's quite stacked this year.
Yeah.
We have F1, surprise nomination. We also have Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, Sinners, and Train Dreams. It's in the category. So, Adam, what do you believe is your pick and the front runner for this category?
Okay, yeah. So, what I think is the front runner is One Battle After Another. It's basically PTA's biggest film yet, maybe. It's definitely my favorite of his. So, and it's definitely my favorite pick for Best Picture, so I really am rooting for it to win picture, director, all these other categories. So yeah,
it seems to be the industry darling. It has picked up a lot of awards at the Golden Globes and as well at Critics' Choice. For me, though, One Battle After Another is not my pick. I'm going with Marty Supreme. Story arc incredible, and the charismatic personality that we see. Timothée Chalamet, usually a quiet person when we see him in public, was able to take on this eccentric role and delivered what I believe is one of the best performances of the year and really takes this film to the next level.
I feel like One Battle, it's more of a relevant story. It revolves around ICE, protests, immigration. It's like a father-daughter story. It will probably connect with a lot more audience and Oscar voters than Sinners.
In past years, we could see a movie like F1 potentially being at the front.
Yeah.
And as well, a celebrated director like Yorgos Lanthimos being put in a situation where he could win. But this category, although close, I think it centers around two picks in Marty Supreme and One Battle After Another.
I feel like it definitely revolves around either One Battle, Sinners, or Marty Supreme. It can either go any way with them. I would be happy with One Battle, but I would not be upset if Sinners won.
We will see which
pitcher is able to take this category on March 15th.
This has been iPulse Live for January 30th, 2026. I'm Delaney Smith.
And I'm Davinder Belbis. Don't forget to follow our website, iPulseNews.com, and our Instagram and TikTok at Lynn iPulse for more content. Have a great weekend.